Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of the Transfer Show for Anfield Index. It is Monday, the 16th of February, and I get it a little bit with this. It could be like, hold on, didn't the window just close in January? Yes, it absolutely did, all right, at the start of February, a couple of weeks ago, you could say. But things are becoming clear for the summer to a certain extent. There's still a lot of questions, isn't there, around the manager, departures, contracts, even where we'll finish. Is there a Champions League budget, a Europa, I don't even like saying it, budget to deal with? There is plenty to get stuck into with this one. I'm your host, Dave Davis, coming to you from it's pretty gloomy, cold and windy in Edinburgh. So fingers crossed, wherever you are in the world, it is a little bit better. But let's get into it, because unfortunately, Trev can't join us. Naturally, it's the middle of the day. But there's plenty to talk about, and doing a bit of digging. It's in a weird way. There's plenty of, let's just say there's plenty of information flowing around. We'll talk about it all, and obviously drop your opinions, drop your thoughts in the chat panel at the same time. So the first place to start is probably around where are we going to finish? And people might say, well, why are we talking about that? Because naturally, there will be some sort of knock-on impact around the budget. Liverpool could very well finish outside the Champions League spots, although you might well be boosted by recent performances and be looking at the table and certain things and thinking, nah, we're going to be fine here. The key thing to call out is financials and contracts with this. And what I mean by that is, God, it's horrible looking at us in sixth there. Lewis Steele had this on, Media Matters. He talked about it in his confidential column through Professor Kieran Maguire, that equivalent-wise, and it is important to say equivalent-wise, for every 100 million that's made in the Champions League or so, it's about 22 million in the Europa League. And actually Spurs, who won it, went all the way to the final, and far, far less than us, who were knocked out in that round of 16 against Spurs, knocked out against PSG, Arne Slot's favourite team. So there could be a knock-on effect on the financials. But I want to be fair and doing a bit of digging around this. It is being played down in quite a lot of quarters. The others suggesting, well, hold on. What about that season we didn't get Champions League with Jurgen Klopp? Don't forget, Dominic Szoboszlai, Alexis McAllister, Ryan Gravenberch arrived through the door. So that's important to point out. Also, the other time that Slot wasn't in the Champions League, Sadio Mane, Gini Wijnaldum also came through the door. So there's a few pointing that out. The other thing that a few have said to us, which I suppose, we'll get tested. I hope it doesn't in a way. But if we don't finish Champions League, it will do. Wages. People almost ignored a little bit that when we didn't get Champions League, naturally players want to play in the top competition, but it isn't a be-all and end-all for all those players. And the likes of Szoboszlai, Gravenberch and McAllister, as we were told, were suitably compensated. Almost, it was described to us, they were paid a non-Champions League tax. It's easy to forget, isn't it, that Pep and Man City were also interested in Alexis McAllister at the time, but bit of a sway there. So actually, the likes of Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai are almost on what people are calling to us their second contract. What we mean by that is normally Liverpool would have given them a contract, do well, you get a top-up and extension, but with no Champions League, they had to be brought up on those bigger wages. A non-Champions League tax, as it was called to us. And Lewis there, I think we'll finish fourth and hope a big summer. Probably nothing like last summer, Lewis, but an important one to know that there's going to be churn, isn't there? There's going to be a number of players leaving. Contracts could play a part as well, but define big, I suppose, is a different question, but it's going to be part of what we're doing. So that non-Champions League tax, that was the first bit that me and Trev really got. In terms of Arne Slot's future as well, people. You probably saw this from Sam Wallace in the Telegraph over the weekend. The view is now consistent across the board. As it says, remains Liverpool that any leading European club for a new manager this summer will consider Slot, were he not already in one of the top jobs. There is unequivocal backing for him from inside the club, from a tactical point of view, as well as his man management. Now, I'm saying that, and I understand some of you will be probably shouting, rolling your eyes, thinking whatever. And I understand that to a certain extent. I really do. But me and Trevor have been consistent. And to be fair, we're getting pelters at times for this as well. That our info has always been Arne Slot has received the backing from the top down. That there wasn't going to be any changes. You know, we said that repeatedly. I don't necessarily agree with it. But that time has now come and passed, hasn't it? And Liverpool are going to ride this train all the way till the end of the season. What is important to know, and you've heard it from Lewis Steele, David Lynch, other reporters, and it's pretty much a set line out there. Nothing's certain. I've seen people going, oh, Arne Slot will be in charge for next season. There's a chance, but he's only got a year left on his contract. There's absolutely nothing that's certain. All you can get is Liverpool are going to do, I suppose you'd call it an evaluation to the end of the season and see where they are. And then, and it's important to say, don't be fooled by anyone, Liverpool have been checking, lining up things behind the scenes if they decide not to go with Arne Slot. I don't think that's a big secret, big reveal at all. But everything here is still on the table. So for people going, you know, it's definitely this. And I get Tony there saying I can't do another season of Slot's dead football come next season. I don't know, Tony. I really don't. The only thing we're pretty certain on, Arne Slot is going to be in charge right the way through till the end of the season. As certain as you can be in football as well. Yeah, you take that how you will. In terms of other sort of off-the-field bits that are really coming up, contracts is a big one at the moment. Of course it is. There's 3 big names have got contracts running down. Of course, Ibu's expires at the end of the season. You've then got Curtis, who'll have a year left to go. And then you've got pretty much the whole midfield in a couple of years, which we'll talk about as well. The key point and cautious optimism is the way it's being put to us across the board. And you'll get this, you know, David Lynch mentioned it on Media Matters. Other journalists are saying this, but there is a cautious optimism. Arne Slot spoke about Konaté's contract, didn't he, in the embargo, saying we are in talks with him. So that tells you what we want. It's clear we'd like him to stay. Negotiations are ongoing. Let's see where that ends. We wouldn't be in negotiations if we didn't want him to stay, saying that he is vital for the team. Damn right he is. And let's just focus on the defender, the central defensive element for a while. At the end of the summer, everyone thought we were short, didn't we? And everyone looked at it and went, well, Van Dijk could be a year older. Konaté's injury history, Joe Gomez's injury history, even worse. Leone's brand new. We missed out on Mark Gay. So that was the finish to last summer's window. And almost throughout this season, it's been the area where you're thinking, and I know some of you are going to say I wanted the 6 like me, and we all do, but it's been a big focus area of Liverpool have got real problems in that centre-back area and a lot to do, hoped in January and in the summer. Just again, doing some digging around that. Weirdly, it doesn't seem to be the big focus of concern right now, as in Liverpool has secured Jeremy Jacquet. He's coming for about 60 million quid all in for the summer. A great move. You know, really seen as a coup, that deal as well. So that is a positive, of course. But there is, as we said, this cautious optimism as it's being put around Ibu Konaté and potential for renewal that, yes, they're well aware that PSG have well and truly been in his ear, but nothing is set, nothing is done. And actually, the summer could look as in the pending summer ahead of the World Cup. If you can get Ibu done, you'd have 2 senior centre-backs tied down, wouldn't you, in Van Dijk and Konaté? You'd have the 2 youngsters there, protege, potential, projects, whatever you want to say, in the form of Jacquet and Leone. And then you've got Joe Gomez, who is a 5th centre-back, and maybe one of those that next season, if you got 10, 15 games out of as an option, you'd probably be quite happy with, wouldn't you? Let's be honest on that. 5 centre-backs. I know people will also be saying, and again, we've done digging on this, there's nothing certain. Would it be 3 at the back we could be looking at and how that would work? But if all of a sudden those were your 5 centre-backs, The picture looks very different to what it did at the end of the summer. That's what we're being told. The other thing that's really forging Liverpool ahead is the centre-back market. Now, speaking to a few analysts around this, as they're saying, Upamecano, his contract is now just a problematic yardstick in the whole measure of things. He signed a new deal, a 4-year extension there. And when you look at the terms of that, I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? Salary up to 20 million euros gross per year. A 20 million euro signing on fee. And they've agreed to a 65 million euro release clause, which isn't valid from this summer, but the summer afterwards. In other words, Upamecano's agent has absolutely bent by and over on this, hasn't he? But that plays a part in how Liverpool are evaluating it. That's what the analysts, to be honest, are telling us, that there's not real value that's seen in the Premier League market and the centre-back market. Even Liverpool aware of that 60 million for Jeremy Jacquet, love the potential. You know, we're not going to go back on what me and Bart's have said on transfer market metrics, but it's a lot of money for a kid who's not played in, you know, one of the top leagues, with the greatest respect to Liga, and has a lot of potential, isn't it? So, yeah, signing Ibu. And I know people will also talk about, oh, is it 200, 250, 275? It's not our money, is it? But if you got Ibu done, as we're being told, the centre-back area doesn't really stand out as a problematic position. Of course, there could still be more work to do, but there's other areas of focus, as we're being told, for Liverpool. And that area right now is the midfield section. Because if you look at that midfield at the moment, and just be objective on what you're seeing, if you look at the Premier League squad list here, I'm not going to put Florian Wirtz there, or he's brand new, so that's fine. But let's go from the top. Endo expected to leave. Szoboszlai, 2 years left to go. McAllister, 2 years left to go. Jones, a year. Gravenberch, 2 years left to go. Trey Ione, we know, hasn't been too happy with his minutes, as Rob Page, the under-23 manager, has talked about. Bajcetic, you know what's happening. That midfield area is the biggest part Liverpool are aware that they've got to sort at this moment in time. Of course, this is if they can get Ibu to renew, which is not at all certain. As we phrased it earlier, cautious optimism there. Also, it's important to say that, as we were told, that you see in all the reports, the embargo, it's not going to get done quickly. These things never do. Ibu will also be waiting to see who fully comes to the table with what offers, and do Liverpool get Champions League football at the same time. But that midfield, that's the biggest place we've got to start, and can't get anything positive on this. I don't want to lie. This was on a slot in the embargo, wasn't he? Talking about Inter Milan's interest in Curtis Jones, who will, of course, have a year left to go. Contract expires in June 2027. Just in case you missed it, he is a Liverpool player, and I think I said this a few times. He's a very good player, but the only line where we don't have issues is midfield, and he has been playing the last 18 months more than he ever has in his time at Liverpool. So that tells you a lot about the development he's made, but he's also in competition with a lot of players that I also like and have done very well for this club. Now, I struggle with this a little bit in the sense of, I think Curtis Jones overall has been the second best midfielder this season. I know recency bias will come into this, and McAllister's shown a bit more promise. Szoboszlai is obviously head and shoulders above everyone else. And of course, we'll talk about Dominic Szoboszlai, but for me, Curtis has been the second best midfielder. And I know at times we've seen McAllister turn it on in the Champions League or at Arsenal away. But week in, week out, I think Curtis is absolutely vital if you're going to be successful in the Premier League. Again, though, every time we do digging, it kind of tends to be the same answer, that we told you this before many a times, broke off talks with them originally because they were miles apart. Now we're coming into the summer. Curtis has been out the team repeatedly. And when he's in, look at Saturday, right back. Also, he'll be wanting parity with all those other midfielders that we mentioned who came in a good few seasons ago on second contract money, as it was told to us as well. So that makes it even tougher. Arne Slot also making it clear, and I know we're not certain if Arne Slot will be in charge 100%, but Curtis isn't a starter for him. None of those things point towards a renewal for Curtis Jones. The other thing to say, if Liverpool do want to have, quote unquote, a big summer, and I know Lewis put in there, Curtis is vital for a squad player. Absolutely. I would get him in Ibu done. I really would. I think that's a big priority for me. But here's the big thing. If he's sold as well, it's booked a straight profit, isn't it? FFP. And also important to say, is doing some digging on this, Spurs, Villa, Inter Milan back in. Even Barcelona were told and made inquiries around Curtis Jones, just because with a year left to go, homegrown to another Premier League team. I mean, it seems madness we're saying this, doesn't it? But you could understand why there would be a row of suitors for Curtis Jones. Christ, I'm praying we get that contract sorted sometime soon. In terms of other midfielders' contract, like we said, that the whole midfield's got question marks around its contract. Shout out to Beth Lindup. This was her a couple of weeks ago, literally 15 days ago, with those quotes from Dominic Szoboszlai in the mix zone. When he was asked about his contract, he said, "Nothing yet, to be honest. Nothing from now on. It's not in my hands. It works this way. There's no progression, but if the right offer comes, then let's see. Hopefully, everyone will be happy at the end. Of course, I want to stay. I like the city. I like the club. I like playing with these guys. I love Anfield. I love the fans. Let's see what the future holds." All things you want to hear. Let's be honest on that, of course. And that was a couple of weeks ago, and you thought, brilliant, he's flying. Let's keep it that way. Talking more in the mix zone than ever, as a number of patch journalists have noticed. However, there's a bit of a looming spectre, isn't there, with Dominic Szoboszlai? And Marco Rossi said this, didn't he, at the weekend? Szoboszlai, since he started playing football as a child, Real Madrid has always been his dream. From the moment Dominic began playing football, he had one single dream: to play for Real Madrid. That is not new news. That is not a brand new shock. It's well known in Hungary that through Ferenc Puskás, the connections to Real Madrid, and ever since, his father sort of, say, a protege, however you want to describe it, but Dominic Szoboszlai has always been mad keen, eventually seen as his dream to move to Real Madrid. Now, it's important to say that Marco Rossi also says in that interview that, he knows he's happy at Liverpool. Could be a new deal there. Wouldn't surprise him either. And you look at Dominic Szoboszlai's words. This is not an imminent threat, an imminent danger, but it's just them fucking lurking again, isn't it? That's what you're honestly thinking. You're honestly thinking like, come on, we can't lose another one to them at the same time as well. This is not going to happen anytime soon because, quite rightly, a player that's been the player of the season and has 17 goal contributions across all competitions is looking for top dollar. Why shouldn't he? How many times has Dominic Szoboszlai dug us out the shit this season? But getting Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes to pay that is a completely different ball game, isn't it? And also, it's worth noting that, again, digging around, and a few have said this, there is an awareness that at the start of the season, before everything unfolded, there was a suspicion Szoboszlai was going to be number 12, that it would be Florian Wirtz in at that 10, and Szoboszlai would be the one who could cover a number of roles. Still important, but number 12, as we were told. So I didn't really like that either, particularly at the same time. Not all good, people? Yeah, we will see what happens on that storyline. In terms of a certain player that, I don't know how to put this, there is just a sense of Thanos inevitability. Paul Joyce and James Pearce have been writing about this recently. As that Paul Joyce tweet there says, not too long ago, Brian Anfield was framed as potential farewell appearance for Mo Salah. Since returning to Liverpool, there have been some differences in his displays. And his article, along with James Pearce, talks about Salah being a creator more than a finisher nowadays, and the way that role's tweaked in the league. But they both have the same phrasing and the same line in it, that there is an expectation of quote unquote, the long goodbye now for Mo Salah. And you see him patting his badge, don't you, on a regular basis? Doing digging on this, our info is that it's already kind of done from the players' side, that Mo Salah has an agreement with the Saudi League already, and that's all done. It's now just about Liverpool getting, I suppose you call it, the best possible deal, if that's the right way. And I know even Virgil was talking about wanting him to stay. But we all know what's going to happen. The question seems to be, how much will Liverpool get for Mo Salah? And it's sad to say, he's my favourite player, but there is a sense of inevitability that it is going to drift towards that. We'll see who it is, how much, and when for the Egyptian king. Now, in terms of wingers at the moment, and we ran a bit on transfer market metrics, me and Bart. So getting bits on this, Liverpool are clearly looking for a winger. They didn't replace Luis Diaz. They didn't go in for Semenyo where they had the opportunity. So we're, thinking they were waiting. We could talk about Cody Gakpo to death, but I don't want to go into that. All that's clear is Liverpool are in the winger market at the moment. And analyse CL6, they're saying, hopefully we get 60 million for Salah. It will be an interesting one to see what that final figure is likely to be. Now, of course, top of the list at the moment, everyone knows it, everyone's seen it, Yan Diomande, who's tried to walk back his Liverpool comments a little bit, hasn't he? Saying, because he did it on the stream, we talked about Liverpool being his dream club. There's no secret about those comments at all. But the way he said, people made it, as in Liverpool, to be my dream club, but it's my dad's favourite club. I have a lot of respect for Liverpool, but my dream club right now is Leipzig. And of course, he's going to be guarded on that. He needs to be respectful towards Red Bull Leipzig, because if he does want to leave, which he clearly does, he's changed agents, hasn't he, as well? This summer, he's got to do it right and line it all up. Also, he knows it's going to be top dollar. And Leipzig are ruthless negotiators, as everyone knows. They do fetch top dollar for players as well. And look how much they got for Sesko and Simmons. And they've been absolutely gashed in the Premier League this season, haven't they? So he is, of course, right up there along with Barcola as well, as we know. I don't think there's any secret. Liverpool have watched these two. But without Champions League, there's pretty much no chance of Barcola in that deal, isn't it? And even Diomande could become tough because there'll be a lot of suitors at the same time, but one to definitely watch. Other wingers we've been linked with, and again, few updates on this. This name seems to keep coming up, doesn't it? Said Almela, the young German, the young Cologne winger, favourite style of Liverpool's, right-footed left wing. We have a sort of kink for those overall. But it's funnily enough that Scouts had put this out earlier today. Brighton and Hove Albion are pushing hard to sign him for the summer. And that's our info as well from a few, that there is an expectation that he does end up at Brighton somewhere around the 40 million mark, we're told as well. That Liverpool absolutely have an interest in him, absolutely have watched him. But see, I don't know why, I don't know how far Brighton along with this, but those are the suggestions that me and Trev have got. Brighton are favourites. Again, it's one that if we didn't get Champions League, if we were in the Europa, and obviously the budget, the cloth is cut accordingly, could he jump up? Hard to say exactly, isn't it? In terms of other names, though, this is one we've been digging him, saying that Liverpool have had a good look at this player. They have spoken to his Premier League club, and Champions League or Premier League, somewhere around the 40 million mark, Liverpool are really in to Kevin Schade. Now, of course, he's got a red card, didn't he, for that stupid act at Aston Villa. I don't know how much that will count against him, but 6 goals, 3 assists, underperforming on his XG, overperforming on his XA. But as we're told, Liverpool do like him as an option either way. Like Semenyo, a multifunctional midfielder, attacker even, that can play across the front line, predominantly from the left, but has played in the middle and on the right-hand side as well. And we know Liverpool need pace this summer. Worth noting, if you want pace, who's the fastest player in the Premier League this season? You're thinking, where am I pulling those stats from? I'm pulling those stats from an official Premier League article. The Premier League don't publish their physical data regularly like the Bundesliga do. That's important to know. But that's what we're told. Pace and desire to drive him. And actually what we're told is this is put him well ahead of the likes of Karim Adeyemi, who's buying guns and knuckle dusters and tasers anyway on the internet. But that's a different story. That Kevin Schade is well on the list, regardless of Champions League or Europa qualification. And also Liverpool like the range of his finishing. If you look at the way he takes his goals, that 36 with his right foot, 36 with his head, 16 with his left foot. A real range there at the same time as well. So, yeah, another one to keep an eye on. Of course, there's other ones like Bauer, Eintracht Frankfurt. What you can't get, and this will probably be impossible until things are defined this summer, is how many wingers do Liverpool want? And again, how much is going to be spent could well depend on, again, who's gettable, could well depend on Champions League or Europa qualification. Christ, there's a lot in the air, but Liverpool are well and truly into that winger market at the moment. Of course, the midfield market, as we know, Adam Wharton is Liverpool's top target. And there's been other links recently, which we'll come on to. There's no secret in that. The interesting thing, though, is Liverpool is still, and a few journalists, a few have said this to us, technical ability is still Liverpool's point of differentiation. That when they look at who we should buy, what's the trend of the Premier League, that the technical abilities are still the key thing. And of course, you don't need me to tell you, Adam Wharton's ability to punch it through the lines, especially feed players in, create chances, XT, sky high, isn't it? So he'd suit in that regard. But physicality in that midfielder is still an issue, isn't it? It's been an issue in this season even. Gravenberch, McAllister, been bullied at times, just McAllister not even been able to run. Grav never going to be physical to be the all-action six that many are wanting at the same time. So that's an important point. Hence, bring in this boy, Caleb Urenkai, 20 years old, been watched by Liverpool a few times, plays in the Danish league, and had a great game against Copenhagen at the weekend. Now, not going to pretend it's our exclusive. You've probably seen that other sites and other people have had this, but doing a bit of digging, Liverpool had a serious ask about Caleb Urenkai in January and whether that could be done. And even now for the summer, Liverpool are right in there. We know we said before about Carlos Baleba and he's being watched, but he's had a bit of a stinker of a season, Baleba, hasn't he? So what Brighton will want, even with a few years left to go on his deal, is an issue there at the same time. And also, as we're told now, because of how well Urenkai has been performing, the underlying numbers, yes, it's a lesser league, lesser minutes and all that, but because of the underlying numbers, probably jumped the queue over a lot of the likes of Buadi as well, mainly because of the price, that you could be talking around 25 to 30 million, which brings, as we were told, a low-risk signing, one that you could really develop, be almost the Endo replacement, feed the minutes in carefully there as well. Nothing certain, and of course, if we don't get Champions League qualification, everything's off the table. But something like a Wharton and Urenkai summer, with Curtis Jones and McAllister leaving, it ain't beyond the realms of possibility, is it, at all? So we'll see what develops on that one. In terms of other bits we've got, this is a weird one. And my opinion on this, rather than what I know, but my gut is telling me we do not revisit this. Of course, in January, we're told, weren't we? Gertrude. We know that. But what didn't really come out, and I managed to get this stood up in a few places, Liverpool did make a serious inquiry for Leeds' Jayden Bogle, the right back, previously of Sheffield United, a physical right back doing, I suppose you could say, okay, I'm not going to pretend I've watched him week in, week out, but Liverpool made a serious inquiry for him in January. Now, does that mean they'll go back in the summer? Generally, no idea. Just an opinion, because me and Trev haven't actually got whether this was a sort of Jan and nothing move. I don't know. But I'm struggling to see it because the market looks a lot different, doesn't it, in summer than it does in January. So we'll see if that gets revisited. But yeah, that's what we were told. Managed to get it stood up. Jayden Bogle, a serious inquiry. The Leeds fullback. Summer, struggling to see it anyway. This name as well. This is a hot net. It's weird. It almost seems I don't know how you put it. A manifestation name. Is that fair? Young Matias Mane, 18 years old. Wolves, going to be relegated. Done very well in burst, hasn't he? That United, Liverpool, others apparently interested. No secret, really, of course, that Liverpool have watched this player, are, of course, interested. Not got too much on this one, so I'm going to pretend, inside out. The only bit we really got is that I've seen suggestions. I don't know where this figure's come from personally, but 50 million quid is the mooted amount for young Matias Mane. We're told that would have to come down considerably. That, yes, Liverpool have got connections there. Should players visit AXA? That's no secret. Liverpool have got the agency as well with Kieran Morrison and other young players there, but we're told 50 million is considered far too rich for Liverpool's blood, that would have to come down an awful lot for us to be interested in that. And I think it's just a sign of how mad the market is a little bit at the moment. And this is not being derogatory about Matias Mane. From the bits I've seen, he looks a hell of a talent, and me and Bart's will be running him now on transfer market metrics now that we've got it stood up. 50 million for a young 18-year-old unproven talent in the Premier League. If you said that a couple of years ago, that's just madness, isn't it? But we'll see. It's clear Liverpool like him. One to keep an eye on for the summer. I never really thought we'd be talking about sort of a youngster under 17, but here we are. Josh Abe. A lot of interest. A lot of eyes on him across the board. We know about the visit to Real Madrid. Lewis Steele and David Lynch both been on to say, yeah, there's a lot of clubs interested in this kid. Now, doing a bit of digging on this, and even if it's come up recently, other Premier League clubs are making hard moves for Josh Abe. Two, apparently, that are right there now are City and Chelsea. Chelsea absolutely want red-hot revenge for Rio and Gamoa. And they're still fuming at that tribunal, even that it was, I think, about 4 million quid it could go up to, or 4.2 million, something like that, and a 20% release clause, or 20%, sell-on clause. Fuming with that. So they want revenge, and they see this kid, and Chelsea pays stupid money to kids as well. So that's an issue. But actually, Manchester City who apparently made a serious offer to Josh Abe. Not liking that one little bit. And I don't want to be hyper fixated on the fact it's Trent's brother and all that, but all just this. And I know we put him into the first team training. We're really trying to encourage him along. And Lewis Bower, shout out to him, has talked about this. But yeah, there is a suspicion at the club that they might well lose this kid, that they've got a real job on when he's old enough, if he's still here even, to get him to sign professional terms. And you may have clocked it, scores a banging hat-trick, doesn't he, at the weekend as well? Yeah. We'll see what happened on Josh Abe's future. And the last one, and I feel for this, again, doing a bit of digging around this, still, Harvey Elliott is just in purgatory, isn't he? That Emery's spoken about it, saying Villa won't budge, Liverpool needs to do what's right. Liverpool aren't budging, saying Villa needs to do what's right. Just feel for him more than anything. I don't believe for 1 second the whole Liverpool, the bad guys in this. It takes two to tango. I don't think Liverpool or Villa look particularly sterling in this whole deal, but Harvey Elliott is just stuck on this. I can only play a couple more games, can't I? Just not clever. But at the moment, and of course, that's one that could change, the loan, the nature of it. Liverpool need to do something. whether they're in the right, whether they're in the wrong, does Harvey Elliott just sit where he is somewhat? But there we go, people. A lot of things to see, isn't there? There's going to be churn of a nature this summer. Winger is a priority position. Are we in the Champions League? Are we going to be in the Europa? What does that do to the budget? What's Liverpool's strategy? Again, that line that journalists keep getting repeated to us. Technical differentiation rather than physicality being the point of difference for Liverpool. Because we all want Adam Wharton, or most of us want Adam Wharton. But if you want it, we need to think Wharton and a physical player, don't we? Other youngsters, Matias Mane potentially in, Josh Abe, like it or not, potentially out. Caleb Urenkai, definitely on Liverpool's radar now. We're going to have to see what happens, aren't we? A lot to build through. Again, we're not saying this transfer show is going to be back regularly. It's just me and Trev had a number of updates, things that we got told. So we just wanted to share those with you. We'll see what develops. Fingers crossed. There's a few contract renewals in the midst. We could really do with those being sorted. But Monday, the 16th of February, that was a transfer show update for Anfield.